Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Epiphany Tide. If you're celebrating on the old calendar, then this period of time between uh, the end of the Christmas season and the beginning of Lent is called Epiphany Tide. And for the rest of you Novus Ordo people, then you could just call this ordinary time. Um, and hopefully it's all still Catholic. So I have Epiphany on my mind right now because last week the Confraternity of Christian Mothers, for whom I am their chaplain, asked me to do a special blessing of Epiphany water. For those of you who perhaps don't know what this word Epiphany means, it is a feast day commemorating Christ's revelation to the world, first to the adoration of the Magi, then at his baptism, and finally at the wedding feast of Cana. But it's most known for the first one, the adoration by the Magi there. And the ladies told me that they wanted to do this special blessing for Epiphany water. And I thought, well, okay, I can just do that. I got my blessed hand ready to go. We'll just take care of this, right? Usually when I make holy water, it takes about 2.5 minutes, maybe three. I don't know. I've never timed it. You've got to do a fair amount of exercising and a fair amount of blessing, all of that in Latin, and I've gotten pretty accustomed to doing those prayers. So I didn't really think much of this Epiphany water blessing there. And the Monday, last Monday, before I went and did this blessing, I actually just decided to take a look at the ritual and to figure out, what all was different about it. That's when I realized that, this daggone thing was going to take 30 to 40 minutes somewhere in there. This blessing of Epiphany water was quite a bit more chanting and ceremony than I was prepared for. So I'll explain to you the ritual as it happened. Is that you start off with the old litany of the saints. Um, you call on God. You call on a number of His holy angels and saints. You ask for all sorts of things, deliverance from evil, and being filled with blessings. That whole thing by itself probably takes 10 or 12 minutes. And then we got to chanting three psalms in Latin, naturally. Um, then there was, as far as I can tell, based on what I was able to glean from the prayer that I was praying, an exorcism of the entire world. I didn't know that with just a text message to the bishop to get permission to do this, that I would be given the authority to exercise the whole world. But that's that's basically what the text seemed to indicate. And then after all of that, we went into kind of the standard holy water blessing from the old Roman ritual, and then people brought candles and rosaries and all sorts of other things, and then I turned around and blessed all of that too. While my blessing hand was all warmed up and ready to go. So the question is, why was any of that necessary? What is it about blessings and rituals that need to be done? Because, as I mentioned, it was the same exorcism of salt and water and blessing of salt and water. You always exercise, then bless. It's a good order to do things in the old Roman ritual. It was the exact same text that I've done many times before. And so why would we add on all that other ceremony? And I think this gives us actually a good way to think about how the liturgy indicates, or how the liturgy operates. So we could imagine doing the most minimalist form of all of these things, of a exorcism and blessing of salt and an exorcism and blessing of water. It could be, I exorcise you, creature of salt, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. I bless you, creature salt, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. I exercise you water in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. May Almighty God bless this water, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Mix them together. We could have the whole thing done in about 20 seconds. Um, there'd be no reason to believe that those very simple blessings and exorcisms that we could do would not be effective, right? I mean, I did the thing. I exercised the salt and I blessed it. And then, while we're at it, we could take a look at the holy sacrifice of the Mass, for a simple daily Mass with a homily that takes about 25 minutes. At your average parish here in Fargo, you're going anywhere from 55 minutes to an hour on Sundays. But there's a whole bunch of other rituals in there that, if we just wanted the Eucharist, we could dispose of. We could, not have the entire liturgy of the Word. We could not, we could just skip most of the text of the Eucharistic prayer and just go straight to the words of institution, and go straight from institution to distributing communion to people. We'd be out of there in 12 to 15 minutes, easy peasy, no problem. Depending on the size of the congregation, might even be less than that. So why don't we do that? Why don't we practice this extremely efficient liturgical minimalism? Why are these all other ceremonies besides? Because these other ceremonies are necessary for us. They might not be necessary for God to operate. He can operate instantly, swiftly, spiritually. There's not much restraining him. But we need the meaning of what it is that we're doing. We need that unpacked, and we need to unpack that with prayers, with chanting, with rituals, with all sorts of things. And so that's what all of these other prayers associated with the sacraments that we perform and the blessings that we do. That's why we do that, is to unfold and unpack the meaning of this for our benefit. Not because God needs us to do all of this, but that we need it in order to be able to understand and appreciate what it actually is that we're doing. And so that's why a good Sunday Mass should take 55 minutes to an hour and 5 minutes, is because, all of the introductory rites and the liturgy of the Word, the offertory, the Eucharistic prayer, the preparation for communion, communion itself, and the dismissal rites, all of that helps us to understand what the Eucharist is. The Eucharist that's at the very heart and center of it has to be surrounded with layers upon layers of ritual so that our little 2-watt intellects can begin to grasp the mysteries. And so on a feast day like the Feast of the Epiphany, when Christ is being revealed to the world, it's entirely fitting that, we're not just going to do regular holy water, but we're going to get special holy water at the beginning of this year, and that we would do this with the whole ceremony of calling down all of the angels and saints of heaven, and then that exorcism of the whole world. Well, that's what Christ did when he was here, and so we remind ourselves of what he's already accomplished by the power of Christ doing it all over again. And then the chanting of the Psalms, and then getting on to all of the blessings there. And so these rituals and these blessings and all of the things that we do as Catholics are there to unfold the mysteries, to unfold and present to our puny little intellects what it is that we're doing when we do these blessings, sacraments, and prayers, and all of these things. So next time that Mass seems to be taking a while, and that there's all sorts of rituals that you don't understand, just say thank you. Thank you, Lord, for bringing these mysteries to me in a way that I can comprehend them. That is most useful. So happy Epiphany Tide, everybody. I hope you all had a blessed weekend. And I am now ready to take on all challengers. I can see that there's a few people here watching, unless all of you are bots. And so, looking forward to unfolding the mysteries of my opening talk here with you guys. So, don't be shy, guys. I had a bit of a long weekend. You're on the road.
I am. I'm in Florida.
Oh, it's a good place to be this time of year.
It's all right. The weather's not going to be great while we're here, but gotta make do with what we got.
I was really excited to spend some time outside today because it was getting up above freezing. So, pretty exciting in January to get above freezing.
It was 80 degrees out like a few days ago in South Carolina. Broke all kinds of records, to be fair, but also it was 80 degrees out.
And Sandy's somebody who understands the value of getting above freezing in January.
Oh yeah,
one of our Canadian friends. They're psychos. They live even farther north than I do.
Yeah, you can't live there. That's just
should be a law.
Yeah, there should be laws against living up there.
There's a bunch of fascinating articles on Pillar Catholic. They did interviews with the priests in the Diocese of Fairbanks. And the Diocese of Fairbanks is huge, right? Like covers most of the interior of Alaska. And these guys have to get around on like bush planes and snowmobiles to go serve the people there. Emma's got it. You can't live there. You can only survive.
No, you die slowly and coldly in the cold. Slowly. Yeah.
It was above freezing and melting 60 centimeters of snow. I don't understand. I don't understand what freezing was, but I don't know what centimeters are. Centimeters sounds like made up.
Plot.
Probably a plot from the French Revolution.
Probably the error of precision. Yeah. I liked your opening, Father. When we were doing many, many billions of years ago, or at least it feels like, but it was like 6 years ago, we were delving into the facility of ritual, right?
Is that a book?
No. The best way we came up with understanding ritual as such, because for Vicky was all about practices, and that's what grabbed her. I'm like, oh, practices, that's correct. It's just not fully correct. But it's a huge upgrade. It's a gigantic upgrade from read old books or read a book or here's the one book you need to know or something. Yeah. So the conclusion that we came to was that the ritual opens you up not only to recognize, the space of potential change or something, but also for that change to maybe happen, maybe not during the ritual, which is really confusing to people. And I'm like, well, yeah, but time is, it's like, no, that plus things happen over time. They don't happen in time. It's not quite, there's an event, there's a threshold event that we go, oh, that's when that happened. But that's nothing actually works that way.
Oftentimes it's just when we're noticing something. That's when we point out to it happening is like, oh, wow, I haven't sworn in traffic in 2 months. I must have gotten my temper under control. Exactly. It's like, well, while you were still swearing in traffic constantly, like you hadn't gotten it under control yet. So, but it wasn't at that 2-month mark when you noticed that you weren't doing it. So something like that.
Yeah, no, it's the same. And because I think that's confusing to people. Yeah. Oh, we saw a great sign on the way down, Father. You'll really appreciate this. So we're driving down 95. I think it was on 95 too, but we have to drive down 95 to get into Florida. And I'm pretty sure it was 95, but it might have been one of the other highways. But it basically said that, it had a picture of a guy with a book opening, looking in the book. And I'm just like, so age of gnosis. This is terrible. Right. And it said something like, discover. Yeah, it said discover why Jesus created you. And I was like, what version of the Bible did you get that from, sir? Because I'm fairly sure that is not in that book. That is not the way it is phrased at all. I'm pretty sure the creation is not from Jesus. It's like that's
Yeah, I mean, we could say that according to his divine nature, he was present, and the Lord God was making the world through him. But when you say Jesus, you're really kind of leaning into the human nature, and the
right.
human nature was created in time. So
Yeah.
you know,
Oops.
they could have just said, "Discover why God had created you,"
Yeah,
and
they just had changed one word,
yeah,
but Protestants can't. They only read the New Testament anyway, really. So another sign was great. It said, you know, know Jesus through the Gospel of Matthew, and I was like, Sarah, isn't there like more than one of the? Aren't there
sure, sure.
more?
Now that I can abide that, because it'd be like, we're going to give you like a section of this that you might be able to handle, like here's just where you start.
Yeah, but everybody knows the only and most important gospel must be Mark. So like I don't. Um,
Mark, has anybody ever told you that 90% of your favorite gospel is contained in Matthew and Luke as well?
no, I don't know. And I didn't read it. I don't really pay attention. I was shocked. At one point, I was talking to Pastor Paul, a million years ago, and my cousin had given me, like for Christmas, I think, um, uh, a Gospel of Mark book with the notes. So it's the gospel on one side and the notes on the other, or something like that. And he's like, "Ooh, open it up! There should be like a secret chapter or something." And I'm like, what are you talking about?" But it was there. I was like, "Oh, okay." Because the great thing about Pastor Paul is, my goodness, does that guy know absolutely every little splinter, sliver, crazy thing in Protestantism, and all the little, like, oh, there's this in this book, but that's not in that book, and it's interesting. He just knows all of that stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's these. He'll just. I had to figure out what seeker sensitive meant when I started listening. I was like, what is this? What is, and then he'd like, I don't know, the young, restless, and reformed. And I'm like, who
Yeah.
are they?
He's got
Did
all
they
these
ever settle down?
the irony of the religious guy doing ontology, or the art of science, roughly speaking, on religion, and being really good at it. It just always cracked me up. I'm like, you don't really understand what's happening, do you? But it's wonderful and it's awesome. It's just hysterical, like at the same time. My other favorite one of I think it is one of the Four Truth ones too. They have this one billboard with they've got the three monkeys, the one leaning down, a half up, and then fully erect, and then they've got the circle and the line through it. And then it said God created, and I'm like, if you just got rid of the little circle thing, you'd actually make a lot more progress, believe it or not, because you don't need to deny evolution to fix that problem. Uh,
No,
you're
no.
too Ken Ham, just a little less Ken Ham, who is correct, completely correct about his diagnosis, and so totally wrong about its solution. It's like, you got
Yeah,
the whole first part right, dude, and you got the
yeah,
whole second part completely backwards. Good job.
yeah. Maybe this would be a fun activity for the evening. We should call 8834 Truth. And just, you know,
No,
just, well, don't you want the truth, Mark?
no, not from those people. Because if there's one thing I know they do not have,
Oh boy. Yeah. It'd be kind of unfair, probably.
it's not pretty, Father. It's really not pretty. I mean, this was always the problem on Bridges of Meaning. I hate to say it, but I could destroy all their theological arguments, and I didn't read the book. It was really bad. I'm like, no, you guys are just bad at this. Like, even if you were correct, you're so bad at this, it doesn't work. Like, you guys are just terrible at it. I'm sorry. Just there's things you can do, and this is none of them. Like, it was always horrible.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
still there.
It's 834 truth, I think. Yeah, I think I saw that today. It's 834 truth.
I'm still there to look after the little flock. Was able to give a useful answer to a question about getting people's children baptized today.
Oh, good.
You know, it's like, yeah, just go ahead and call that parish. They should take care of you. Yeah. Of course, sometimes I say that people should do this, and then they do something completely opposite, and I'm like, all right, guys, you really should do it like this. But usually my advice is good.
Well, and I wonder what the role of something like ritual is with contrast, so that people can see, we'll say, good advice from bad advice, because that's one of the things I think it gives you access to. I mean, I think one of the sort of core secrets to my success of not totally falling into resentment and total vengeance, which, boy, do I have justification for in spades on so many fronts, was ritual. It just wasn't Catholic ritual, but it was having, that repeatable thing to go back to over and over again, that I could say, no. Actually doing that would not be great, even though it would be satisfying and
it's funny.
Might enact a form of justice even.
It's funny how that works, because if you were stuck in materialistic gnosis type thinking, you would think that you would come up with an argument as to why this is a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
But like, when you're properly engaging with things and understanding things, it's like first, and then you can like generate the arguments to like support that knowledge. You're just like, yep, I know that won't work, and then you can maybe explain why, maybe not, maybe you just know you can't explain it. So
yeah, I do see the trend that a lot of people are figuring out that arguing points doesn't work, talking to people doesn't work, evidence itself doesn't work.
well, like that video you just posted seems to be doing well. The Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson, nobody changed their minds thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yes, I know why. That got put on a private members list before my video got released, and so my channel got hugely visited, which was very nice. Probably not due to the SEO, but maybe I should actually find out. I should reach out to a certain person and say, hey, did you pre-release my video before you release it to the public on this particular day? But I'm fairly sure that's what happened. But yeah, I mean, I think that hit at the right time, because I did that before the Minnesota thing happened.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, people are starting to figure out, you can show people incontrovertible, uncritiqued and uncritiquable evidence, and that doesn't change their mind at all. Like, they're in it to win it, even after they've already lost.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think my well, it's really 3 videos. I did a live stream, and before the live stream, I had the doc animation, and then this is the explanatory part of the doc animation that describes why that happens. And so yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that people are starting to get it, and I'm out there on Twitter asking them, okay, these people exist. What do you propose to do about that fact? Because obviously your tactics aren't going to work, and that is that is more what I what I'm trying to get people to point to. Like, okay, you finally see at least some small scope of the problem. would you like to take another shot at what we need to do about this problem? Because your tactics not only didn't work, but now you see evidence that they never will or can or should. Right? So that'll be interesting to see what will happen.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mark. You're not the first one to notice this. Jesus
Really?
was asked why he spoke to the crowds in parables and didn't explain things to them. For this people's, I don't know about this translation, but we'll see. For this people's heart has grown callous. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and I would heal them. I think that's a bit of a weak translation. Let's get something a little bit more direct.
A little
Because
bit more
Jesus's words, well, Jesus's words are actually kind of shocking and confusing. Something that happens all the time, and people are continually shocked and confused by it.
Well, the hippie Jesus thing. Actually, I didn't watch the whole thing, but somebody just posted a video on the Discord about that, and I was like, yeah, there's the. I mean, he's just doing the materialism. I'm like, yeah, but they're worshiping the hippie Jesus. That's the problem. That's why they're shocked by these things. That was also why all theological arguments on BOM were easy to win, because they'd always leave out the same parts. I was like, you left this part out, right? And they're like, oh, well, no, you're just misinterpreting that. I'm like, no, that's not actually possible, but okay. I'll listen to your non-argument not work, because it'll be fun. And then it would always collapse because they were always dumb, which is too bad, really, but also not my fault. So what do we got? We got a better one?
We got the Dewey Reams here. For the heart of this people has grown gross, and with their ears they have been dull of hearing, and their eyes have been shut, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and be converted, and I should heal them.
Ah, I like that. That's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty. I like the tripartite system, by the way. That's
in addition to being the Son of God, Jesus had great rhetoric.
I wonder if there's a correlation there or a causation somewhere. We need to make final cause great again to find out.
Well, let's start right now.
Yes, excellent. And if they have eyes to see and ears to hear and could understand with their heart, they would in fact make final cause great again.
So I think this is actually a good thing to start, like, really, pulling at spiritual blindness and ritual right there.
Yeah.
Because the blindness isn't like, it's not like there's a conscious part of them that's like, oh, no, can't look at that, can't look at that, can't look at that. And that they're doing that intentionally.
Right.
It's all happening on the level of perception. And, I posted that Peterson retrospective article on your server a few days ago, and it was interesting as some of the things that he noticed, but like, we all agree here, and this might be the dogma of this channel, that Classroom Peterson is the best part of him.
Yes.
There was some good stuff after he was kicked out of the classroom, but that was the gold that just tilt the picture up there. That's the gold that put him on my wall back there. And how much time he spent with perception in the classroom, and like that was his most useful work, was all of his work, like even like that's a big takeaway I took from its personality and its development courses.
Those are good.
Like, those are really good. And it's like, yeah, being at one extreme of the temperaments means that you have a very hard time seeing the things that you're not good at seeing. Right?
Yeah.
So like, I'm fairly low in politeness, part of agreeableness, and like, I could just like walk by people and not acknowledge them. It's really easy for me. I have to like stop myself and say, good morning, and like, this was something that even came up during formation, is there was a secretary that I would arrange to have meetings with my formation director with. She was like a secretary for 3 priests, keeping all of their calendars in order. Um, and my formation director is like, so do you ever just like chat with her? I'm like, no, I just come in and make the meetings. And he's like, okay, this is what I want you to do. Is I just want you to like every time you come to have a meeting with me, you come 5 minutes early and you just say hi to her and see how she's doing. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do that. And so I did, and like, but I needed that pointed out to me that like an important thing that you should do in an office is just like stop and waste time with people,
Yeah, right. That was always really that was a struggle for me early on too. It's like
Yeah, right.
because you're treating everything as a machine, and then he gave you a new program to upgrade your own programming.
Right, and I just, I didn't argue with it. I'd been well trained by seminary enough, and like, oh, yeah, that does actually make sense. Maybe people, especially her, would like to just, get to know me a little bit, and even if it's just like 5 minutes every 3 weeks, it's like that's plenty right there.
Well, and that's if you understand that particular formula right there, then that will put you in a situation and help you to will help you to understand why, yes, I agree that thinky talky is important. Right? Like, of course I do, because it is important, but that doesn't mean that all thinky talky is equal, or that your particular thinky talky system is going to accomplish, we'll say, what you think it should accomplish.
But I'm really focusing in on the ritual here, right? And like the practices and that sort of thing. It's like it's a lot easier for me to see now that I practiced on that secretary, in the seminary, just like making it a regular point to just stop there and waste time. It like I can kind of see now, like, I need to just like on my way in today, I just need to stop and like talk to Susan for 5 minutes. Like I can see that now. And so like the practice, it was a fairly simple practice that he had me do, but it was a practice that I enacted. And when there's something like really big that's hard to see, like breaking it up into the ritual bits and practicing and enacting that, like that actually expands what you're capable of seeing. Like that's at least one of the levels that ritual will start transforming you on, so that you can see with your eyes and hear with your ears and understand with your heart and be converted and be healed. But like that's what the parables are for, and the rituals and the practices is they get you into that. And Emma, are you engaging in a practice of crocheting right now?
Well, it's knitting. I don't know how to crochet, but yes.
You're hidden by the final cause bar there, so I can't really see if you've got
making a hat. It's a late Christmas present.
Well, I'm sure it'll be appreciated anyway. How is your baby?
He is wonderful. He is a year old now.
Oh my gosh.
He's technically not a baby anymore.
That's impossible.
Can't believe it.
That's not true. That can't be true. It's not how it works.
I disappeared for a whole year.
We have missed you for a whole year, pretty much. Oh, you came on twice or whatever.
Yeah, I've popped on a couple times, but his sleep schedule is a little more stable now, which is nice.
It is nice.
He like naps at predictable times and goes to bed at predictable times.
Inconceivable.
What a good boy.
He is.
I have a 1-year-old godson that I got to meet a couple of years ago.
Oh.
And they're a lot of fun at that age because they're kind of starting to get it, but they can barely talk. So it's pretty cute. I don't know.
He's not.
I'm pretty partial to I'm pretty partial to my. But you can tell that they're like really starting to track and understand things.
Yeah.
And then they want things, and then you tell them no. They don't understand why. It's like, well, kids, you can't stick your hand into the fire, but they don't understand.
So many of the things they want are literally just impossible too. It's like, no, you can't hold that upside down without the water coming out. I can't make that happen for you. I'm sorry.
You're
Oh,
just mean.
it's just because you're mean.
Yep. It's all just arbitrary decisions of mine. It's not reality or anything.
Well, that was a serious theological point, and discussion in the 13th and 14th centuries as to whether or not there was any intrinsic order to creation or if it was all just God's arbitrary will.
Yeah.
And they didn't have Thomas Aquinas around to talk some sense into him because he was dead, and nobody read his writings.
That's what happens when you can't see order itself, which
Yeah.
that's what bothers me. I'm always like, wait a minute, you can't put these two things together, really. That's what you can't do. Do all these other great things, but that's what you can't. Wow. Every time too. Every time I see it, it's blown away again. It's like,
Yeah.
that's what ritual does. It allows you to see how things are tied together and why that might be useful.
Well, and it gives you an order to step into too.
Yeah.
Because actually order is really hard to understand without experience of it.
Right. Yeah, you get to experience the order. Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it.
Yeah, there was an article in First Things a few months ago about somebody who had become Catholic, and it just I've never really argued with the church. Shocker, that the priest would be the one to say that, but I've always just, even when there were some things that I didn't understand, it was always like, well, I might understand this later,
Same.
And then there was somebody who, wasn't just Catholic, but converted to Catholicism. And, they had made the decision to trust the whole process. But they still had all of these questions. And I was like, well, and they really did, and so it was this article about, going to confession and how that started working in her and changing her and brought peace into that. And I just have to remind myself that not everybody did their first confession in second grade. So
wild,
a friend of mine.
That's the thing too. With ritual, you're learning through direct participation. And if you don't know, if no one's ever sort of shown that to you, learning through exemplification and participation, then you're not going to know that. Well, my argument would be that's the only way to learn. You're going to think learning has something to do with reading a book or being taught something by a teacher or all these other things that experimentally have been shown not to work. So it's just a little weird that your own system says it doesn't work. And yet here we are still having this dopey argument.
Well, right? Not to just I'm a parent, so everything's about that now. But kids can learn before they know words. They learn really well before they know words, actually.
They learn less well if you try to teach them words. And that's in the research. Actually, this is what puzzles me. These guys have never looked this up. Dale Farron is a good pointer in that direction, although not the only person talking about that. And she doesn't talk so much about words. She talks about structured learning versus basically play learning. Is the way you sort of frame it in the Peterson-Vervaeke language. And the data on that is pretty solid. It's really clear. If you send your kid to pre-K, you're pretty much dooming them throughout their life. If you send them to a kindergarten with desks, it's not good. And the later they go, the better. I mean, it's because you can do the birthday thing and figure out, right? And so she did all that work, and it's 100% clear from the data. It's definitely statistically significant.
I would believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
for reinforcing my wish to homeschool.
Emma, you have my blessing to homeschool. You and Colin will do just fine.
You guys would probably be great at it.
But he works at a school now.
Okay.
Perfect.
And there are several things about the school, despite it being our parish school and lovely in many regards, where I'm like, I don't know though. Like, I think you use computers too much.
Oh yeah, computers are poison. Don't use them. Terrible things.
Seriously, if my viewership went to 0 right now because everybody got off the computer, I wouldn't be too. There'd be part of me that'd be upset. But the rest
I'll shut off the lights and the internet. You all can leave. I'll be the last one out. That's fine. I was thinking about that today, oddly enough.
So it's just reinforcing this. My godchild's family. He's got an older sister, and they said that she was having a hard time developing language, and one of their friends does something called like play speech therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like kind of trying it. I think it was one of those things where like somebody else comes in and does it, it's just going to work better. Kind of like how you might not be the best coach for your kids in basketball, like somebody else. And so it might have been a little bit of that too, but like just doing the play, like playing with toys together, like really unlocked the older sister's vocabulary. They didn't have desks or books or anything like that. Just like playing together with somebody else.
You've got to link the words to actions in the world, not objects in the world. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Yeah. And I think a lot of what people think of as autism is they're just object focused, and they're not action focused. And when you're not action focused, you can't be relationship focused. When you're not relationship focused, you look autistic. Hence the intimacy crisis. This is why I'm going to die on that hill. Although probably not. As long as I'm on that hill, I think I am unassailable, but no one's tried. So
everybody,
bottom of the hill.
Everybody dies eventually, Mark, even you. So it's coming soon enough.
I don't have any evidence of that yet.
Okay. Well, we do have some interesting statistics that maybe you should look at.
No, I don't disagree with the statistics. I just like to point out to people that I can't make the statement that everybody dies. And there's lots of good other ways you could go with that, right from that book you guys all read. Without I don't want to make a statement like that, because until it happens to me, what do I know? I can make the statement purely from ignorance and win the battle. It's great.
Yeah. I'm not sure where that gets you, but I guess
amused.
I guess it's logically very tight,
It gets me amused. It proves my point that logic is garbage and should probably be just thrown out in most cases. And because the rest of you are terrible at amusing me, it works for everybody. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I would hate to see you bored.
See, Emma understands perfectly well. That's right.
It would be like a tiger in like a too small cage.
That is hysterical, because that is my nickname.
The tiger?
And also the favorite poem ever written, The Tiger. So yes. Yeah, my nickname is actually Tiger. I have family members that call me Tiger.
And older family members, right?
Older family members, right? Are they like uncles?
Oh, yeah. Older and younger. Right? My cousins, my aunt's kids. And their kids.
They might have learned it from the uncles then, so that'll work.
Yeah, but my aunt still calls me. But it was a nickname my mother came up with actually originally. But
I'm still listening. I'll be right back.
My two aunts once got into an argument actually in front of me, and by in front I mean I was standing within a foot of each of them at the same time. And one of them was saying, "You can't call him Tiger." And the other one was saying, "You have to call him Markel." And the other one was saying, "I don't care. I'm going to call him Tiger." And I was just sitting there like, you could just like consult me if you wanted to, but just watching them argue was too much fun, and it didn't really occur to one of them. The other one was like, "You don't mind being called Tiger, do you, Tiger?" Which was hysterical in and of itself. And of course I said, "No, of course not." But that did not end the argument, because I have family members that will say eyes to see and ears to hear are probably never going to be an option for them for whatever reason in their lives, which is really too bad. But
you would know that, the finger of God is immense amongst you if it ever happened, right?
Yes, I guess.
Well, wouldn't that be a sign of miraculous?
Ixnan's being a wise ass father. What's wrong with this guy?
Keep up the good work.
Sometimes you guys can amuse me. Fair enough.
I felt like we've had lots of amusement over the years, Mark.
Who's putting in all the work, Father? Who? Huh?
Okay, all right. You know, who's paying for the StreamYard subscription?
Have you tried the AI clips option yet?
I have not. Remember, I've made a vow to this community that this is going to be as low effort as possible.
Dude, you hit one button and come back in like an hour.
I was gonna say AI clips sounds like maybe almost as low effort as possible. I guess not hitting the button is still less effort.
It's true. Pretty impressive. Actually, I just released one, and I just noticed that my video that wasn't supposed to released early. But yeah, my latest long form video was very much inspired by that article you posted, by the way, Father. So other things too, because obviously I've been tracking what do people say about Peterson for 10 years or 8 years, whatever it's been. But that article was insightful.
Yeah, we're coming up on like, was it 2017 when he couldn't sleep?
Maybe. I don't. Yeah, it might have been the C16.
Bill C16.
Yeah, it might have been. It was pre fake news virus scamdemic.
Oh yeah, yeah. But like, by how much?
Right, but by how much? It might have been 2017. That's possible.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
It was a few years before I started doing things, and I started doing things after I graduated college 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago.
Yeah. A lot of people caught on to him late, and I sort of caught on to him and then left because I hate psychology. And then the C16 thing hit, and that was the end of that. I was like, all right, now we're all in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, it was before C16, but the C16 really cemented the all-inness. And yeah, I think a lot of things came together with Peterson that people don't understand, and that was my latest video, was another round of that, even though I have several other rounds of that. But I think that was the final sort of keystone piece to put it all together. Because part of that's in the conversation that hopefully is going to be released this week on the 100,000 subs channel that I'm on. So fingers crossed that comes out soon.
There must be some real dynamite in that conversation if they're sitting on it for so long.
I actually think the more I think about the conversation in my head, like I hit all the high points and I was totally on fire, but we'll see how it comes across. I don't know. But I think it was released in members only a few days ago, and that's why my channel got a huge bump. So,
well, yeah. I mean, that might account for something. I don't know.
Yeah, I got like 8 subscribers in like 2.5 days. I was like, what is it? And then a video got like 200 or so more views in 2.5 days than I thought it would. And it was already 3 days out of release. So that's very unusual, but it could have just hit, who knows? But I think that particular conversation got released to members only, and then I got a bunch that way. But this AI clips thing, because I've been using it, it's pretty cool. But sometimes it totally screws up, but sometimes it's got some real bangers.
Well, sometimes I totally screw up, so like.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I did a tweet about AI. AI most affected are people with too much time on the internet, to realize that yes, your time on the internet can be replaced by AI. And all the people whose jobs can never be replaced by AI because they do actual things in the actual world actually don't have any concerns about AI. It's like there might be some kind of weird correlation there that is easily explainable through causal means. But
what about AI teachers?
Well,
Do you think people are going to try them and they'll fail, or they just won't take off?
No, I think it's worse than that, Emma. I think that because I was in Boston when that whole online education thing started, like the first wave of that. So what happened was Salman Khan did his thing, right? Khan Academy. And Khan Academy is excellent. But if you're a little dumb, and most people are a lot dumb, apparently, you probably thought that his platform or his format or what he was doing was the magic. But it just turns out, as somebody who's actually been around a hell of a lot of teachers, even at the high level, right? Because I was in Boston and like would walk around campuses and audit classes because you could back in the day.
You could probably just walk on to like 3 different campuses.
But three, yeah, in an hour. Boston's back to schools. But Salman Khan, I can just tell you, is a phenomenal teacher. He's not a good teacher. He's not a very good teacher. He's not a 1% teacher. He's a 0.1% teacher or a 0.01% teacher. I don't know which, but he's just really good. And I used to use Khan Academy. I still do occasionally when I need to understand something real quick that I don't understand. He, for whatever reason, because most teachers can't do this, but he's actually very good at showing things in a way that I actually understand, which obviously I really appreciate. But that caused this online revolution. And one of the things, the first thing that MIT and Harvard did, which I thought was stupid, but this was like round one, was they just took wholesale courses and put them online for free for anybody to access. And I'm like, are you guys, did you fail? It wouldn't even be basic economics. Did you fail Logic 101 as to why that might be a very bad idea?
Just giving your products away for free?
Yeah. Or it's not. It's actually way worse. It's giving away the free thing that everybody thinks is the most valuable thing that you offer, but actually is not. Because you also screw all the people watching it. And this became really clear to me during, there's a guy named Andrew Ng, and he was in, I forget which California horrible school, because all schools in California are horrible. Hence Boston being the best. But he had this famous machine learning course back in the day. And not when it came out live, but certainly shortly after it was released, I watched the whole thing in like 10 and a half hours because I'm not normal. And I was on the forums and everything for the course. And what people were saying was, oh, I did get a lot out of this, especially with the TA showing me MATLAB. And I was like, wait a minute. He didn't do any MATLAB in the lecture at all. Right. And then I realized, oh, that's right. Because college courses are structured around the labs, and lectures just one of 3 or 4 or 5, depending upon what kind of course it is, parts of a course. But the way people had gotten jobs from taking his course was they took the course in person and they got the MATLAB skills. And if you learned MATLAB in any capacity whatsoever back then, you were worth a hell of a lot of money on the market. And so going to the machine learning course and listening to the lectures and understanding all that, which of course I did because it's computers and that I have no problem understanding, not that valuable. Valuable for certain things, very helpful for all of my projects, but not valuable to employers, not valuable. And maybe I could have leveraged it to be valuable to employers, but the real value that people reported getting out of it, it's obvious. And it was obvious once I read it, wasn't obvious beforehand, was in the TA sitting down with them and showing them how to do the things that in the lecture in MATLAB. And there were, I mean, MATLAB was very expensive back then. I'm not even sure if they can still charge for it.
I'm not even sure what it is, you know.
It's amazing. Practice?
Yeah, it's a mathematical simulation system with its own language. So it's effectively a programming language based around a single application that allows you to do math simulations and do fun things like plot them. And there's a free alternative to MATLAB called Octave from the Free Software Foundation, obviously. And I do know a little bit of Octave, although I'm really rusty on all that stuff. But that is the way you would implement, or one way. It's not the only way. Obviously, I coded it all from scratch by hand because I know how to do that. But MATLAB's a lot quicker and easier, like a hell of a lot, right? So that's one way to implement the concepts in the lecture. Now, I just needed that was perfect for me. I just needed the concepts. I really only needed the lecture. But had I been in California, which probably would have killed me because California is poison to the soul, it would have done me well to go there and actually pick up all the MATLAB courses and have a bunch of people at a school know that I knew MATLAB. That would have,
the networking too. The networking is
right.
like that's a lot of what you're paying for at Harvard.
That was the thing that I was repeatedly told about going to college. You don't go to college for the courses. People knew fairly early on, just based on my ridiculous vocabulary that I've had since a very young age, because I had a college level vocabulary at like grade 6 or something. I forget. They tested me. They're like, you have a college level vocabulary. I'm like, I don't know what that means, and I don't care. What did I get into the school or not? Like I took your stupid test. I don't know what any of your test results mean. I don't care. We're trying to get into the school. Did I get in? And they're like, oh yeah, you got in. You broke our test. We'll let you in. But like they always told me, no, it's not the courses. We know you know the material already, and there's no reason for you to go to college. We understand that. That wasn't the big deal. The big deal was it's the connections you make along the way. But that wouldn't help me anyway because I was always terrible, especially back then with social stuff. So probably wouldn't have worked. Glad I didn't waste the money. Still a win for Mark. This is still the right path, even if it was a bumpy road.
Yeah.
But we've lost that. We tell people now that, getting an education is the thing. But when I was a kid, that was not what they were telling people about college at all.
See, it changes based on like
something's changed.
It changes based on your objections or like what you're saying, because like people say getting an education is the thing, but then if you have an argument against that, it's like, well, it's networking. But then if you have an argument against that, we go back to education, or it's just the experience. So basically, there's just always an argument why you should go to college, and you shouldn't think about it.
Yeah, I bet you those arguments are come up by people who have a job to boost enrollment.
Yeah,
probably. It's sort of like that whole, your wedding ring's got to be 3 months salary thing. It's like, oh, I wonder who came up with that rule.
Yeah,
was it jewelers? Did jewelers come up with that? Because that's the sort of thing they would say.
Well, who else are you going to ask for advice on wedding rings?
I should ask the priest. Simple gold band signifies everything you need to say.
That is.
You can take that.
I don't know. I got mine off of Etsy and made it a little fancy.
Okay, well that's nice too.
That was fun, and it was cheaper because it was off of Etsy.
Yeah, extra. Like eBay, but fancy eBay.
Earnest
eBay.
No, it's
Earnest eBay.
Earnest eBay. That's correct.
Yeah, that's what
I had a multi-tool that the belt clip had come to pieces, and somebody sold a replacement made out of leather on Etsy. So it was like
nice.
It's extremely. I mean, it fit like 8 different multi-tools, which is fine because it fit mine, and now it's
including mine. Yes.
So it's like, if you're good with leather, it probably takes you, 20 minutes to make 5 of those, and not much material to it. So yeah.
There you go.
Wedding rings too, I guess.
Yeah, actually, I have a hypothetical or not question about that. Like, if you were to get a replacement of your wedding ring, either because you lost it or because it didn't fit, could you get the new one blessed? / should you get the new one blessed?
Certainly
or does the blessing like transfer.
So certainly, you're still married if you get a new ring.
Right.
So, but oh boy. Well, how much sacramental theology do you want to get into tonight?
All of it.
I was going to say, you know me, all of it.
Yeah, sure. So let's imagine a scenario where there's a wife who has a simple gold band, and it gets blessed during the wedding ceremony. Fits her very well. She likes it. And then an evil theologian breaks into her house and swaps it with an identical gold ring, right? To prove a theological point somehow. He's evil, right? So, she has no idea that that the rings have been swapped. She has no idea that this one is actually just a simple gold band that has never been blessed by a priest. When she looks at that ring and reminds herself of the vows that she's taken, does she still receive grace?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the sacramentals, they operate by the faith of the worker rather than by the work having been accomplished, right? And I can tell you, ex opere operato and ex opere operantis, because you're an expert in Latin, you know exactly what that means, Emma.
That's all obvious, Father. Why would you need to say that?
So, if you think that you would be more inclined to grace if you got a new wedding band blessed, then you could get that wedding band blessed. But if somebody doesn't want to and they still think back to their marriage vows, then they're probably okay.
Okay. Makes sense.
So you don't have to, but it might be good for you too.
Yeah.
So Father, I want to take this right back to your excellent opening about ritual. And I think one of the advantages of ritual is it shows that ritual is a method of anti-fragility, or making things anti-fragile, because it can be a little messy and a little wrong. But because on whole, it has a lot of mass and momentum at the same time. Funny that word's used in that way by the materialists. It's almost like they stole the word. Anyway, I think that helps you to helps people to understand even things like symbolism better, right? When they have a long-lasting ritual that maybe isn't perfect or has changed over time, but still serves the function well enough, we'll say, that it gets you in touch with imperfection, and I love that analogy. By the way, you gotta do a whole video just on that. That is
the evil theologian stealing the wedding ring.
You could do a whole series of shorts of the evil theologian and all these things that he would do to try to usurp, and why they wouldn't work because Catholicism is obviously correct. That would be great.
The evil theologian's wearing a suit the entire time, and you only find out in episode 7 that he's a Jesuit,
Perfect. That's perfect. A Catholic self-critique. I love it. It would be excellent. You should do that. We should storyboard this out and make it happen. It can just be a series of shorts. Huh?
It'd be fun. So that's a joke that Emma will get more than anybody else here tonight. But there's this thing in the European universities where priests don't wear clerical garb in the classroom.
Terrible.
Yeah, right. Also, just take a look at Europe. We shouldn't be imitating them. It's pretty simple.
You would think that would be simple, and yet, are people imitating dumb things all over the place. Pretty bad.
And then I had this professor in seminary, and he was a layman, had like 9 kids, and he would go to these big, important ecumenical dialogue meetings and occasionally ruffle feathers, which we loved him for it. And there was somebody who had met him at like 3 or 4 different meetings and had just assumed that he was a Jesuit, and then like found out that he had, a whole mess of kids. So yeah, that's pretty special.
Oops.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I got to go check on my baking again. I'll be right back.
Baking.
It's one of the things I liked about The Name of the Rose, because that movie and apparently the book, although I didn't read the book, just exemplifies how messy like real monasteries were. Like there were all these problems, guys. It is not that reduced, compressed vision of monastery that is so idyllic and would solve the world, although it would, even though they're imperfect, which is a better message. An imperfect monastery is better than none.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Amen. How's your baking?
Not done yet.
Okay. Are you going to share it with the entire stream?
I would, but then I would have to make another one to eat breakfast all week.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
The stream is unworthy. You're wonderful baking, Emma. Don't worry. We know it too.
And honestly, the compression, to get it here, it really ruins the flavor.
Yeah. It wouldn't be as good. You'll all just have to come to my house. If you come to my house, I will absolutely share my baking.
How far are you from wherever in Ohio they're doing Symbolic World 2?
But I don't know. Where are they doing Symbolic? I haven't been paying attention.
Remember, it's between Toledo and what's their other big city?
Cincinnati. Cleveland.
Between Toledo and Cincinnati, right? It's right in between them somewhere.
What? Are you sure it's Symbolic World?
Symbolic World 2, yeah, they announced it.
Symbolic World Summit 2. I will not be going. It's the middle of confirmation season. Bishop and I will be going on that very weekend to the far northwest corner of our diocese, which is almost as far as Ohio.
Yeah, I was going to say that's as far in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
What is
basically Cleveland?
What is Symbolic World?
Oh, that's Jonathan Peugeot's outfit, his whole publishing team, and what was it? 2023. They did the Symbolic World Summit in Tarpon Springs.
Yep.
2024.
2024. And so they're doing another one, but in Cleveland this time because.
Cleveland.
Because they're materialists and they're convinced that being in the center of the country is better because little tiny demons somehow convince them of something. So look, either you're getting on a plane or you're getting in a car to go where you need to go. Where that is when you're on a plane or in a car actually doesn't matter. I don't know why people think like being centrally located is important. No, it's really not, guys. And Thunder Bay kind of proved that. The Thunder Bay event proved that for sure. A bunch of people went to Thunder Bay. I drove all over the country just to get to Thunder Bay.
I did drive 8 hours to get to Thunder Bay, all the way. Yeah.
Thunder Bay, 22 hours from my house, and I had to drive to see Sally first and then stop in Minneapolis and pick up Ethan and then drive to Thunder Bay.
It was worth it.
It was totally worth it. It was awesome. That was the best event that could ever exist in the history of mankind. It was wonderful. I loved it.
I should say the resurrection probably exceeds it, but
I wasn't there.
Yeah.
How good could it really have been if I wasn't there, Father? I mean, there's no judge at that point, right? So we're back to my ignorance about whether or not everyone dies. See, it's a handy pattern. I pull it out all the time. It's quite amusing.
Your extreme empiricism will be dropped the second it's inconvenient.
Well, that's true too. Yeah, that's especially since I don't believe in extreme empiricism. So just makes it all the more amusing.
Well, hopefully I'll figure out how to be amused by it too.
You've gotten the chuckles on it a few times. Don't pretend otherwise. Sir.
There goes Mark again.
We have the video evidence.
What?
It's so much fun. I have so much fun. I don't know why the rest of you can't have fun too.
I'm having a great time because Emma showed up.
I know. I'm so happy. I'm
And-
so happy. We've got to leverage this, Emma. We've got to sick you at TED, so he'll have another conference, so we can go to that again too. Because
that'd be nice. I would enjoy having another one of those.
We got it. Yeah, I can't get Catherine to do Thunder Bay too. I keep poking her, but it's not working. So maybe we can find Ted again if he'll come back.
Maybe
Convince him to do another one of his conferences.
Once I'm done with this stupid degree,
you're going to do your conference.
I could do a conference. Well, actually, what I would basically do, Stu, is say, Ted, you figure out what we're talking about, and I'll take care of all the logistics. Don't worry about it.
Nice.
I'm sure he would love.
He would jump at that. He would totally jump at that.
Because like I'm pretty good at logistics. I'm not the best. I know I'm not the best, but like I'm pretty good. I can handle it.
You just have to be good enough.
Yeah, you just need to be good enough. Plus, I bet you get Catherine to help you.
I haven't talked to her in years. She must be really boots on the ground up there in Canada. So
she vanished off the Twitters and everything, but it's too bad because I really want my Thunder Bay too. I'm like jonesing for that. I'm pining away for Thunder Bay. Such interesting, such a beautiful place. So interesting, a ton of interesting history.
All doused in rain.
That was the bummer part. Although the day we were leaving, that was, at least it wasn't raining. I got some beautiful pictures of the bay with the big camera and with the Nikon and everything. So yeah, and the Canadian side, the north end of Lake Superior, man, absolutely gorgeous. Even if you're half sick and probably shouldn't have been driving, it was quite nice. I appreciate it.
Did you go like down through Michigan?
I went over and down through Michigan through Sault Ste. Marie. One of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I'll tell you. It's too bad that Canada does not keep up their scenic overlooks and their rest areas. So there's almost no place. There's a couple by the lake, but there's no place to stop above and see over. There were two places that I missed because also Canada and signs, not a good mix. If you're expecting signs and you're in Canada, you're gonna have a problem because that's not gonna happen. Yeah, there was one overlook that was like you had to get off the highway. You weren't really getting off the highway. You would get off and go either under, I think it was under the highway and up the hill on the other side, and then you could look out over Lake Superior. But there was one place because I actually had to take a nap because I got sick on the last day. The day after, actually, I woke up and I was like completely ill. And even though I appeared on video that day and everything on Pastor Paul's channel, I should not have been driving. I was like way too sick. But I had to get home. So but I stopped at one of the places by the lake and took like a 15-minute nap, which boy, that was required. And that was gorgeous. It was so pretty there. I was just like, wow. And there was nothing on the lake. It was relatively flat, but it wasn't glass flat, but it was relatively flat. It was a gorgeous morning. So yeah, it was pretty. It was a pretty drive back.
I bet you Lake Superior is
gorgeous. I love it.
Yeah.
I bet you it rarely ever gets like that flat. It's too big to.
Oh, it's super rare, but it happens in spots. And in the north side, I don't know if it's more or less of a chance, but there's some areas that are bays,
pretty well sheltered. Yeah,
they're big sheltered bays. So unless the wind is really coming out of like the southeast, which it shouldn't really do very often, you could probably get some glassy looks out of that. Although, especially with big lakes, you're more likely to get that at like 4 a.m. sort of thing, right when the sun comes up. And I was not there that early because I had done a video and then gone home.
Yeah. Good times.
So, Father, if you have a conference, who would you invite?
I'd probably just tell Ted, come up with things for us to talk about. You can give a talk yourself. You could divide those things up. I would trust Ted to put together a really, really good conference because last time he did,
What other speakers
Yeah.
would you have though? Like what?
well, I'd consult. Like what do we need to talk about? Where are we at right now? Do you need me to talk about something? I can try. I have a hard time speaking longer than 40 minutes. It's really difficult for me to speak longer than that. Like I don't. Yeah. Anyway.
May I suggest a speaker?
You can. That's perfectly free.
For an unknown topic? Excellent.
I think you might want to talk to a fellow named Dennis Noble, who is a biologist who has been critical of neo-Darwinism.
Well, that'd be right up Ted's alley. I mean,
yeah, neo-Darwinism. What new crazy term is this? You mean just Darwinism?
So basically, Dennis Noble is that's DENIS Noble, is one of these guys along with Michael Levin, who's one of these scientists who's critical of traditional Darwinism, and specifically Dennis Noble advocates for like multi-level causation theory in biology, at least from the interviews I've seen from him.
Michael Levin thinks he's God, so I don't know about that guy. Seems a little.
So from Wikipedia, Noble has rejected natural selection as the primary mechanism of evolution.
That's because it's not.
And called for extended evolutionary synthesis.
And Darwin knew that, so I don't know what these people are talking about, but sure.
He also acquired that from research in epigenetics, acquired characteristics can be inherited. And in contrast to the modern synthesis, genetic change is far from random and not always gradual. So, he might be a little too important for me to get at the sort of conference that I'm intending to plan, because really that conference that Ted put on was more of like a retreat.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just a wonderful pace. And you just, accept that you're going to have a real tight budget and not the biggest speakers in the world, and a real opportunity for maybe even a little bit of intimacy amongst the participants around a campfire.
Yes, the campfires. The campfires were the best. I think Ixon has a good point. You could speak well enough in 40 minutes or less. In fact, my argument would be for an hour-long session, which is what Catherine did. I had a lot of discussions with her about this afterwards. Like a lot of people make this mistake when planning. They plan an hour-long speech, and I'm like, no, you need to just plan a 40-minute speech because you need Q&A afterwards, and then you need at least 5 minutes between events so that people can get where they need to get and speakers can prepare. And there's strategies for doing that. Like you basically you skew the timetable so that people's psychology works. So you say things like, oh, you're going to start speaking at 12 but stop speaking at 12:40 because it's a 40-minute thing, right? And then we only have 15 minutes for Q&A. And then if you do those things right, then you can really sort of get into the groove. But I'm sure you could find other methods, right? There's other methods. Like you don't have to talk for 40 minutes. You can do, interspersed speaking, right? And
because I'm so tuned for homilies, right?
Right.
Where it's like shorter the better. Like how quickly can you get this done? Just make the points.
Just watch all my monologues and you'll figure out how to talk too long. I do it every Friday.
That would require me to watch all of your monologues, Mr. Lefebvre. I don't know about that.
They're totally worth it, actually. Although we cut a bunch of them down. I got to get Sarah back on that. We cut a bunch of them down and made them into regular videos. So we'll do more of that. And they don't get cut down much, but
you just take out the dead space, so it's uninterrupted mark for 40 minutes straight.
the and ah. Oh, I don't think any of them are 40 minutes.
No pauses for breath.
No pauses for breath. That is correct. Yeah. I'm always on the fence about. You kind of need and ah time when I'm talking because you need time to absorb what I just said. It's not. I may be talking a long time, but it's not as we'll say less dense as you might expect. It really isn't. Even with the quote repetition, which actually is only part of what I'm doing when I'm being repetitious. It doesn't help much because that's only part of what's happening. Yeah, but there are ways like you can chop it up and make it go in different directions based on stopping points and audience questions. Like there's all kinds of tricks you can play to make, we'll say, a small amount of dense content into a longer lasting event.
But also 40 minutes is kind of perfect.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're really going to talk, unless you're going to have two people talking, right? And then you want to be on the longer side. You want to be closer to 2 hours.
See, this is probably just me, right? But like I look at Dr. Scott Hahn, right? Who kept an entire auditorium or a civic center full of North Dakota farmers and housewives absolutely enraptured for an hour and 15 minutes by just doing biblical typology for an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, well, yeah, if you're Scott Hahn.
That's what the problem is. It's like, maybe I just need to accept that I can only keep people enraptured for 40 minutes. And I don't have the extra 25 minutes.
How many years has Scott Hahn been doing this?
Well, he's also, he was also a Presbyterian preacher, so he was used to preaching a long time.
Well, and they're heavy on enchantment. You Catholic priests are terrible at enchantment. I need to say, as a Catholic,
that's what we have the liturgy for Pete's sake. Takes care of it for you.
Awful. Yeah, but if you guys all understood enchantment better, like everything would improve immediately, including your ability to see what a sinking ship you're actually trying to bail out here. And that would make the bailing better, I promise. But yeah, but because of the materialism has infested absolutely everything, I think people aren't appreciating, no, all the magic is on the enchantment side, and that's actually how everything's working. And so we really need to pay more attention to that and not this other nonsense stuff where we're chopping up the church to make it more convenient for people. Instead, we should be going quite the other way around. And we should watch Billy Graham. Sally might be right. But I think that, what you're doing is not like extending the homily. What you're actually doing is extending your endurance at enchantment. And if you look at it that way, and like I said, there's tricks. There's cute little tricks you can use to make 40 minutes of material last 2 hours. That's actually pretty easy to do. And the problem is holding the enchantment. In other words, being able to project the right resonant energy for 2 hours. That just takes practice. At the end,
we have Billy Graham at home. All right. It's Dr. Scott Hahn there.
I don't think the Catholics have an equivalent to Billy Graham. Billy Graham was kind of a magical creature at some level. He really had something going for him.
People have been cutting up Scott Hahn's talks and putting them on TikTok. Particularly someone sent a TikTok to a group chat that was Scott Hahn telling part of his conversion story with the caption, "Protestant pastor realizes the truth of the Eucharist." And I was like, Protestant pastor? That's Scott Hahn.
Well, I mean, at the time that he realized the truth of the Eucharist, he was a Protestant pastor.
It's just so funny to see like the clickbaity title over the top of like guy who has been telling this story for 20 years.
30. We're
30 years.
Like I think he published Rome Sweet Home in 1995.
Yeah, I was about to say it's probably older than me.
Yeah.
Ouch. Yeah. Well, but that's actually a perfect. I don't think it's clickbaity. I don't think it's clickbaity enough. It might be clickbaity to the Protestants, but they're impervious to facts and logic, so they're kind of irrelevant.
That's so true, though.
Sorry.
That is not how I converted a Protestant. It was not facts and logic.
Like I said, they somehow think that you can learn the truth of why Jesus created you. Even I know that's wrong. You morons. Yeah. It's not obvious.
No, but another potential speaker if we do ever have a conference. And also Father Eric, just someone I think you should look up, is Father Michael Renier. He has a Substack. And he's my friend's pastor in St. Louis.
RENNIER. Needs a haircut, but we'll give him a shot. He's on the Catholic Answers team. Graduated from Yale Divinity School. He's a former Episcopal clergyman.
I was going to say he might have been Protestant before he became a TLM pastor.
Right. He's a former Episcopalian clergyman, which means he has a wife and 5 children.
No, I don't think so. Maybe you found the wrong.
Did I find the wrong Father Michael Renier?
Maybe not.
Like this is.
Maybe I just
didn't
know that about him.
Does he have a Substack?
I don't know. We're at the Catholic Answers, Boomertown.
That could be right. That's just a very old picture of him.
Yeah.
Let's pull up his Substack.
Yeah, then we'll just drop that in the comments there. But I want you to be more informed and more powerful.
The Catholics are going gangbusters. Hate to break it to you, but
that's the interesting thing that's happening, right? Because like we've talked about before, like you don't necessarily know things are happening until they've already been happening for a while.
Yep.
And so kind of.
I guess that is him. I'm just used to his picture being incredibly tiny.
Like if there's a revival going on right now, it would actually take a while for the bleeding to stop.
Yeah.
Like, right. So it's like there's like a dipping, down, and then like the revival can actually be coming up from the other direction at the same time.
Yep.
And there's another thing it's hard to track, but like people who had just been not active as Catholics decided to get back into it.
Right.
On all the surveys, they would be, oftentimes would still be identifying themselves as Catholic. They just haven't been to church in 10 years,
Right.
And then, bless me, Father, for I've sinned. It's been 10 years since my last confession. I take care of them and they're right back in. So, but it is still, if you're just looking at the numbers, then the numbers are still telling the story that the Catholic Church is shrinking, despite like doubling the number of converts we have,
right,
in a year. Because when you go from 15 to 30, but you lost 200, let's say, in that same time period. So it's just tricky to figure out what's going on, but. Mm-hmm. I think, and what's getting people excited, and I don't think it can be captured by the numbers, is just like the quality of what's happening and like some of the excitement and energy around.
Well, a lot of it is I don't even want to call it bad data. It's impossible data science because the surveys are done wrong. You can't extract information out of surveys done that way. And that's one of the problems. And self-report is always a problem because self-report means self-interpretation of how you're going to answer the question. And so it's a double bad bias, basically. But like down here at the villages in Florida, their Catholic church is overstuffed. And a friend of mine just said, "Oh, I've been going to, I went back to church for the past year." And I was like, "Really? And you never mentioned this? How interesting." Like, that's very strange. So yeah, and that's all like anecdotal. All evidence is anecdotal, just to let everybody know. When people use that, they're the low IQ science people. They just don't like what you're saying. That's what that is.
So wait, is the plural of anecdote actually data?
Probably.
Because that's a saying, like the plural of anecdote is not data. Like it doesn't matter how many anecdotes you have, it doesn't count.
Right. Well, that's what yeah, that is, I mean, it is used as a derisive. It's a your observations don't count. That's what, when somebody says it's just anecdotal, they're saying your observations don't count. And I'm like, no, I'm fairly sure all observation counts in science and that you're just evil.
They need to be official.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah, yeah.
Source.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's a clever and very cheap trick by people who claim to know better. Obviously, the only thing they know is what they hate, because it's what they are, and they're always the evil they pretend to hate in all cases. It's a weird coincidence, I'm sure, but also, yeah, just the way it is. But yeah, you see a lot of the problem is that the definition of who's in the club and the definition of who's not in the club have no clear boundaries, but one is very, very broad and the other is very, very narrow, right? So, oh, you're identifying as Catholic because you grew up in a Catholic family and you got baptized in Catholic church, versus do you go to church right now? It's like, you can't compare those two sets of numbers. That's impossible. You're not going to get any interesting information out of that. And that's the, I don't think there's a way out of that problem. You have to either count the number of people in churches, right, and then just go back, because that data is data that you kind of have to some extent, or find some other proxy for how many people are attending, because what people are actually talking about is the participation, which is weird, right? Because like the team evil knows that participation matters, and they can't point to that, because the minute they point to it, they'll increase it, because that's how that works. And they know that. Unfortunately, Team Good doesn't seem to understand that at all, which just makes me want to throw up. Like, why don't you get this? This is actually your thing. This is the thing you should understand the best, right? And so they're more reticent because they want so many more people that they're willing to count something other than participation and call it a day. And it's like, well, and they have a legit case, because it's the spiritual participation that matters more. Also true, but what we're talking about, like the way to convince materialists is with better material numbers. So like, if that's your audience, and that has to be your audience, otherwise you are actually preaching to the choir, which is a well-known error, then you need to stick to materialist numbers that are going to work for materialists. You can't do the other thing, which again would be pointless anyhow. Why are you doing the pointless thing? Don't do the pointless thing, right? Point to real numbers that mean real things to the audience that you're trying to get the message to. And I think that's often confused with the medium as the message, which, as near as I can tell, McLuhan is just misphrasing. Maybe he has a point, but it's not the medium as the message. The message needs to be tailored to the audience, and that can be done irrespective of medium, except where medium excludes audience, because that also happens, but that's a different problem. And once you introduce 3 variables, people freak out, but also there's way more than 3 variables.
There are way more than 3 variables.
That's why they don't like the Trinity. 3 variables is the threshold for people. They flip. You can get away with 2 for some people, but most people need 1 variable or fewer. And once you get to 2, you lose a bunch of people. And if you go to 3, you lose almost everybody, because the certainty level goes down enough that they're not interested if there's an answer there anymore, because they want the certainty, not the answer.
Oof, that's tough. Yeah.
Yup. Now you see it.
Yeah, no, right? Like certainty. Yeah, they want the certainty and not the answer.
Not the answer.
Like that's definitely upside down world right there. You don't want to be there, because
any certain answer, any answer with greater certainty will always be more palatable than a truthful answer.
Right. Even though it's just like getting used to being in uncertainty.
Yep.
Like that actually takes practice. You can't just expect people to be able to do that.
Right.
Which is why, I mean, I'm just bringing it back to the discussion at the beginning with like ritual and all of that. You know, it's like you can see the priest, you can hear him say the words, you can hear him handle the bread and the wine, and you can know how the church sacramental system works. But at the end of the day, you have to trust that he has the intention of doing what the church intends to do in the sacrament, right? And that he's not blasphemously pretending to consecrate the species in order to, take glory away from God somehow.
Yeah, well, and I think the certainty of ritual and the participation trains your certainty meter at once towards a type of certainty that is not propositional, but also away from propositional certainty as such, and towards a participatory truth, that's the real problem with true and truth. Is, well, it's truth, but truth is only ever participatory. And this word truth that people throw around is actually garbage and probably shouldn't be used, because it just has no actual utility.
You should go post that on Truth Social.
I know, huh? Yeah, well, because a lot of the science relies on consensus, on so-called scientific consensus, and because they abandoned the actual definition of science because they're morons. And consensus is just democracy. That's all it is. It's one form of democracy, or it's the result of a democracy or something, rather than something we'll call objective, or we'll say independent of the agreement of the people. Right? You need something independent of people's agreement. That's what you need. That's why you get people using the word populism, which doesn't have any possible meaning except democracy that I'm not happy the results of. Right? I don't like those democratic results. I'm going to call it populism. Okay, but it's still just democracy. You didn't coin a new term, and you're not pointing at a new concept.
Yeah.
You're just making up a derisive term because you don't like the results of what you asked for, which was democracy. So it's the same sort of problem. But when you get certain in your participation, the reliance on certainty in propositions goes away.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, because like there's still a space, like you're participating in a ritual, being led by the priest, everything's properly oriented and is going as smoothly as we could hope. There's still like that little space you've got to cross of like, I'm trusting this, and I'm just gonna be a part of it. I'm not gonna, hold a part of me back or hold all of me back and just observe. Like I'm gonna be a part of it there. Which is why I tell people, for their first few Latin masses, that they shouldn't have the hand missal. They should just watch what's going on.
Yes.
And, I think sometimes people are trying to be helpful. Like, no, it's easy. It's all here in the book. And it's like, no, just let them watch. Let them just observe, note the fidgety altar boys, you can just sit there and watch the incense go up in front of the stained glass window. That's all fine. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to engage with it as though you would have engaged with it had you done it as a child, and
I
not
was
try
just
to
about to
engage
say
with
that.
it as as an educational experience that you'd have at a college, because that's not.
Mhm.
You need to go through the full form of formation and development, and that form is childlike, where you're just watching and wonder. That's what children do, right? They watch in wonder. They wonder how this is going to unfold. They wonder what it's all about. They wonder how it all connects, right? They wonder.
And most of all, they wonder when it's going to end.
That's they pine for the ending. Yes, they're like, does this end? Right, but
Is that a segue, Father Eric?
No.
Not quite.
We're still 20 minutes from me collapsing here. But I just, we have all this talk about like the childlike wonder and all of that. And sometimes that really does happen. But a lot of times there's, fidgeting and crawling around and all sorts of other activities happening in the church. So just acknowledging that reality that 4-year-olds are still learning how to sit still for long periods of time.
Well, the ritual gives them a reason to.
Yeah, and sometimes that works, and at other times it's just like, well, they do what they do.
Children are tiny chaos monsters. That's
tiny little chaos monster,
and they need
out.
formation, right?
Yeah.
And that's this is the conversation that no one is having, is because they keep using the word education, which is a psyop, shouldn't be used. They mean formation. They just don't want to take responsibility for, if your parents don't form you, the schools will, and then you'll believe gender ideology and climate nonsense. And
there are people having that conversation.
Where are they?
They're not on Twitter, Mark. That's your problem.
Certainly not on Twitter, and they're not on YouTube
They're
either.
in my homeschool mom literature podcast Discord.
And you're not allowed in there, Mark. Girls only.
There are like 3 guys.
Yeah, homeschool.
I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
It's got girl cooties. No, you shouldn't allow guys there. That's a bad idea. Tell those guys they'll get girl cooties if they keep coming. And if they don't quit, are they really guys?
I have to wear my collar to like scare off the cooties.
Keep the cooties away.
That's what the collars, exactly. That's what the collar. That's why you can go in those women's only spaces for short periods of time. You've got like the hazmat suit. It's great.
This collar will keep the cooties off for 30 days.
I don't know. In mass cootie concentration, you probably only have a couple hours, Father, and then you got to get out of there.
It usually only takes a couple hours, and then they're done with me.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are people. You do have a filter, Mark.
I have lots of filters. Thank goodness.
But whenever I hear you say nobody's talking about this, I always mentally add on Twitter. Like, well, maybe maybe that's not a great place to go look for mental stability and good participation in the world.
No, I mean my sphere is a lot broader than Twitter. Yeah, Twitter's a mass. Poor P. Boghossian was like, nobody would have heard about Iran, listening to the mainstream media because it's all on Twitter. And I had to tell him, it's not on my Twitter, buddy. You don't know how this tech works, you dipshit. I don't know why you're commenting on something that you clearly have no idea how it works at all, even a little bit for half a second. But also, you're wrong. And that's actually really important. You think Twitter's some magical fix the mainstream media problem. And boy, there's one thing it's not. It's that. And it's actually worse for you than having a broken mainstream media at some level. But I don't think that conversation's due anytime soon. But no, the stuff that I track is super important. I was curious, Father, what the article that you posted, what did you think of it? Because boy, I found a lot of stuff in it very interesting.
Yeah. So what do I remember? I remember reading one thing and thinking, I don't think that's right. I don't remember what it was, but there was like a definite moment where I was like, that ain't it. So what was the thesis of this article that we're talking about? Written by a guy who got really into Dr. Peterson, 2016, 2018 period. And it is interesting, like I always listened to Peterson and I thought, oh, this guy's actually giving people pretty good advice. I can accept and receive it. And, the transgender pronoun thing was never going to bother me. I thought he was doing it from a freedom of speech standpoint. That's a good enough tactic that you can use if you need just some breathing space. But I've always said that, God gets to pick your gender for you, because you can't be trusted with that kind of responsibility. But, he was coming from a different formation, a different perspective there. It was interesting to note that, like, he was really mad at Peterson and couldn't stop watching him.
Yeah.
Like, that's a fascinating thing right there when that's happening to someone. I don't know if I've ever been through that before. Like, somebody's really challenging me and I have to sit there and listen to them because you're hungering for something.
Or you're just upset that what they're saying is right because you don't want it to be true.
I suppose, yeah. And I don't ever recall having that sort of an experience. So it's hard for me to relate to it. But
me too.
Yeah, it seems to happen to people. So that's it's sort of like, I suppose it'd be like Herod liking to listen to John the Baptist preach while he was in prison. It's like, well, you were the one who put him in prison. Like, what do we got going on here? There's a little bit of ambivalence there. People don't quite know what they're up to. I really thought it was interesting right at the end of the article where he talked about by materialist principles, Dr. Peterson shows that materialism doesn't work.
Yes.
That he had tracked and came to that conclusion independently. Took me a while to get there, which, but it's interesting that he got there as well. And that it's sort of like so I'm not worried if I ever met Dr. Peterson that I'd be disappointed. Because he's already kind of disappointed me, Like, he hasn't gotten better than his classroom lectures, which means we got to see him at less than his best and be disappointed in that.
Oh.
And
hello.
Hey, Colin.
I gotta do the trash.
So it's like, pointing out the limitations of what he's accomplished. Because, yeah, those are the things that I noticed in that article.
Well, one of the more interesting things to me was his wife basically pointed out to him, man, when you're around other people talking about Peterson, you're really harsh on the guy. But when you're talking about him with me, you're very sympathetic to the position and you're trying to actually genuinely work it out. And I was like, man, this is gold right there. That's total gold. And the fact that he didn't notice he was doing that, which, you don't know what you're up to. Did you? Sure you paid attention, Peterson? Boy, he's got some zingers in there that are just, totally awesome. Like, you don't know what you're up to. That's correct. You do not. You should figure that out. And yeah, I thought that was, so his struggle is still there. It hasn't gone away. And I don't think he's figured out his critiques of Peterson are orthogonal to what he'd like them to be, basically, right? The point he's trying to make is not made by his critiques of Peterson. And I don't think he understands that, which is not surprising. But that's what my latest video is basically all about, is more what is the magic of Jordan Peterson? What did he actually do? And how did he do it? This idea of bridging from the propositional to the participatory effectively.
This is the article we're talking about right now. I suppose it might be useful to post that.
Yeah, that was useful. Probably have to put it in the description too. Yeah. I think everyone's missing the bridge. Which was one of the things I really liked about Vanderklay's project initially, and the Bridges of Meaning, which is actually Joey's project. And I thought that was, and it worked for a bunch of people too, which was even more interesting. It just because it wasn't being led and properly structured and cared for, it just didn't last, right? It only worked for a handful of people because Joey was there, and then Joey's gone, and now it's completely not doing anything good anymore, as near as I can tell. So, yeah, the fact that people don't notice that trick, and they think Peterson's just secular Billy Graham or something, as Pastor Paul does. Maybe he's upgraded his thinking on that a little bit, but he was definitely there for over a year. And it's weird to me. I'm like, no, dummies. The magic is in the action. Why is this not your first conclusion? But it's not people's first conclusion. They're still stuck, in the materialism. Effectively, they're still stuck in this. Oh no, propositions in democracy are going to somehow do something good in the world, even though all the evidence we've ever had from history says that's impossible.
Not to open a can of worms at the end of the podcast.
Open her up.
But Mark, how do you feel about Paul Kingsnorth?
Oh, I have a little video on him. He's a clown. Yeah, completely ridiculous. He's first. If you haven't seen his talk at First Things, which is only a few months old, that talk, that was fantastic. Because he right there is saying effectively that there's a conflict between civilization and Christianity, because civilization, to be fair, under his retarded definition, is a machine, and that machine is evil, which is also wrong. Like he's double wrong. It's amazing. But the only possible conclusion from his First Things talk, which is explicit, is that civilization is the problem, and therefore there's a conflict. And he's on both sides of that conflict at the same time. He seems to agree that Christianity builds civilization, or successful civilization, to be more specific, or I'll say right-oriented and ordered civilization, if you want to use the best secular language that I have on hand. But his conclusion is that that's bad. And I'm like, so really, you're just cult of the individualist because the machine is evil. And the way you get to machine is you just put everything in the context of a machine, which is a 0% difficult trick, right? Because this is what people were doing with politics, right? This is what the anarchists in particular, but also the libertarians do with politics. Less so now, libertarians have sort of come around, but it's still an untenable position, right? Is they say, oh, well, if we just fix the politics by having better politicians or something, then that will fix everything. Like that'll fix the civilization and the culture. And I'm like, politics is downstream from culture. Andrew Breitbart was right about that. That should actually be really obvious. And even people who are Breitbart fans and say politics is downstream from culture still put things in a political frame and then say, this is how you fix them. And I'm like, both of those things can't be true, guys. You kind of have to pick one. And oh, by the way, Andrew Breitbart was right. So you can't fix politics to fix the culture or anything, because you can't fix politics because politics is a projection of something else that already happened. Why is this confusing? Kingsnorth is making the same sort of error. He's just casting everything in the frame of a machine. Well, look, this is a machine because I can describe it using a language of a machine. And I'm like, that's great. This is the mistake that the AI people are making. The brain is just obviously a complex computational machine, and therefore AI will spring AGI, or some form of consciousness based off of AGI, which is the next step they never make clear, but they're actually claiming that AGI and consciousness are somehow linked, which is also false. Again, they pile falsity on top of falsity to fool you into thinking there's a trajectory. Right.
And to buy a $30,000 AI accelerator. That's the really important part right there.
That is the really important part.
They're not that cheap. What are you, high? If they were 30 grand, I'd be tempted. They're $100,000 more like. Anyway,
I thought that was for the whole rack, $100,000 for the whole rack. I was just
yeah, the
talking about
rack is
card.
$100,000.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to get done with the $30,000 card when everyone's buying?
I don't know, man. They got like 29 gigabytes of RAM on the die. It's wild.
Oh, I know.
That is wild.
It's completely nuts. There's a great video from Veritasium that everybody should watch just to be awed by what is probably, they're correct about that. I don't think it's clickbait. The most complex machine ever built by man.
Oh, yes. When we're vaporizing tin to make ultraviolet radiation.
The new one hits the tin 3 times with lasers at different power levels at a rate of 60,000 droplets a second in order to create the light of the sun times some order of magnitude, I forget which, in order to do the etching. And I'm just like, none of this sounds like it's possible, and yet we have this thing and it works pretty damn well.
On this very stream, I do believe I've mentioned the black magic of the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company.
It's not. It's the Netherlands. It's the Dutch.
Yeah, I didn't even know they were buying, but trust the Dutch, right? They're born to be engineers.
But the bigger story,
they have to be.
If you pay attention, the bigger story is the big tech companies like Intel and TSMC and
Samsung,
all those guys.
Yeah.
Samsung, they dumped billions of dollars over I think it's 35 years and got a product 6 years ago out of this company. That's the amazing part. It's they did not have the more amazing part is Fred just came back. Well, he's gone now, but he came back from California and gave a speech on quantum computing. And at the end of it, he actually showed a quantum computer using a laser pointer. It was kind of cool. Did this physical demonstration. But then at the end of it, he mentioned, every once in a while, because I used to print chips in my lab using an electron microscope, and my brain went immediately, oh, that sounds like, of course that would work. He said, I always think, maybe I should quit this AI thing and just come to South Carolina and do that, because I'm fairly sure we can get it down to some ridiculous nanometer level. And I was just like, oh, that would be cool, because it's actually a much better way to print the chips for so many technical reasons that I barely understand myself, but absolutely I'm certain about. And he seems certain about it, and he's done it, so I'm going to go with him. So there's all sorts of magic out there. All of which to say, the forces that are moving the materialism are really not well understood at all. Right? How the time frames and dollar amounts to get chips down to smaller and smaller levels so that people can buy AIs, because we're confusing AGI, which is a flawed theory to begin with consciousness based on these lies, because somebody's putting things in a bad frame, much like Paul Kingsnorth is doing. And seriously, Emma, you should check out my video on that, Why You're Wrong About the Machine or something, I think it's called.
Okay.
I don't make that point that way, but I do dismantle Paul Kingsnorth's ridiculousness. He's basically just insane. And this is what happens when secular people come into especially a highly mystical tradition like Orthodoxy, is they basically go nuts. They take their materialist bias into the mystical, and they recapitulate everything within the materialist frame with the same errors, only using the mystical language, and then they enchant the church. And that's actually a lot of what the Catholics were suffering post Vatican II. Not as the result of Vatican II directly, but once you open the door to change, you get change. You don't necessarily get the change you want, which is the problem with Vatican II. Not that there's nothing wrong with Vatican II, or very few things are wrong with Vatican II, but once you open that change door, change going to happen. And if the pressure of change is not towards what you thought it was, you get the mess that we have now in the Catholic Church.
Well, I appreciate your nuanced take on Vatican II. It's clear that you actually listened to what I said, so thank you.
Yes, no, thank you, Father. You're the one that made me understand all this. I appreciate that.
And just to give a maybe different point about King's North is that there are two incompatible, or there are two cities that we are citizens of on this earth that are not entirely compatible with each other. There's the city of God, with Christ as his king and monarch, and the city of man. When the city of man is behaving properly, they can achieve some measure of earthly justice. And the city of God's kind of dependent on that, at least in this dispensation. So we're kind of stuck with the machine, or the city of man, if you want to use good old-fashioned Augustinian language. We're not getting rid of it anytime soon, until our Lord comes, and then he will just dispose of everything as he wishes,
and make all things new.
So, unfortunately, Paul Kingsnorth would be much happier as a monk,
Yeah.
and I don't think that's available to him. I do believe he has wife and children depending on him, and so the monastic lifestyle is not going to be there for him until such time as his children are independent. He could, by mutual agreement with his wife, he could just go off and live in the desert, and that would make everyone happier. And I regret to inform you that it's dark outside, and
It has been for a while.
Well, rational creatures, much like your son, Emma, go to bed under such circumstances. So I believe I will be joining him in dreamland. So good night, and God bless you all.
Good night. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.